one of you be the host.
Namaste. Good evening, all. Welcome to the second days of the session. Let go, discovering lasting happiness. So sit comfortably. Let the eyes be gently closed. Check that your posture is comfortable. Observe the normal breathing for a few rounds. Let's chant 3 rounds of Omkara. Each time breathe in, breathe out. Continue with the Om chanting. Inhale deeply. Bring the palms together in Namaskara Mudra. Omkara and the Sahana Vavatu prayer all together. Breathe in. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Welcome all to the day 2 of the session. So we started by knowing what this let go, discovering lasting happiness is all about, where Raghuramji said that the spiritual sadhana is not about, running away from the world. It is being in the world, carrying on your activity, and then, progressing in your path. So yesterday we saw that in search of true nature, all of us have this question, who am I? So this discovery of who am I? So we saw that the I, the witness behind the self, behind the body, the Brahman is the real self. So the Brahman is characterized by expansiveness, the state of bliss, the inner joy. And then in the progress, we also saw that one is, how do we do the investigation? They said that to understand the I, they understand that Brahman, you have to do investigation. So we saw that one was Atma Pariksha, and then the other one was Sukha Pariksha, where we saw the Dukha Pariksha. What is the Dukha state? How is the state of mind when we are in the Dukha? The mind is full of speed. Yes, we have focused on one point, narrow-minded, and when we have to let go of the Dukkha Nivarana, we have to feel that expansive state for that Dukkha Nivarana to happen. So, and a lot of beautiful examples were given by Prabha. So today's session, we have, continuing with that, we have Sukha Pariksha. What is Sukha Prapti? What is Sukha about? Yeah, so we have Balambika Raman with us. She will be giving the presentation on Sukha Pariksha or Sukha Prapti. Bala has been a student of YB and then she is now a teacher with YB since 2018. And she is also a special educator where she guides special children how they can improve their cognitive abilities, how they can improve their interpersonal relations through yoga. So she is also a volunteer with Chinmaya Mission. So over to Bala. Bala, you can start.
Thank you, Vijayaji. Namaskara to one and all. Yoga Bharati welcomes all of you to the second day of Jnana Saptaha on the Let Go series by Shastriji. So yes, like what Vijayaji had mentioned, we started with the most fundamental question that lurks definitely in each and every human mind. Maybe not, bothering us so much, we push it aside, but these fundamental questions are there in our mind all the time. Who am I? Why have I come here? What is the purpose of life? We also saw Nachiketa's story where he starts questioning what happens after death, and we saw how Yajnavalkya Rishi had, talked to his wife Maitreyi about what gives the Sashvat Sukha, everlasting happiness. So all these people, what we all have these questions, but the difference between us and the ancient seers or even people who have evolved in life is that they have turned these questions into a quest. So these questions are there, but we kind of push it aside and move along in life. But our ancient rishis and many students in Upanishads, if we see, they have made it into a search, into a quest. And they have shared, they are so compassionate that whatever their quest, how the experiences that they have gone through, they have shared in the text, and which we are blessed to read and share it among each one of us. So this whole Jnana Saptaha, we are focusing on self-discovery. Who am I actually? I may be thinking a lot of things, but actually, who am I? So to examine that, Shastriji has beautifully come up. Actually, Upanishad there's loads of knowledge. So we need someone who can actually bring that down to our level. So Shastriji has given us few important pariksha. Pariksha, what is this pariksha? Pariksha is examining. So it is very important that in modern times especially, everything we need an intellectual answer. Until there is a logical answer to it, I am not going to have any faith and say that that is true. So this pariksha is nothing but an intellectual exercise for each one of us to really examine what these are, to understand what it is. So by doing just this pariksha itself, we can move to the experience and practice later. Just this pariksha itself brings in a lot of insights, because let us see what it is. Like yesterday, we did see the Dukha Pariksha. So the first thing that Shastriji starts with is Sukha Dukha Pariksha. So it is a beautiful summary that he has given, really simplified, so that we can understand from our real-time experiences. So Dukha Pariksha we saw yesterday. So we will now look at what is this Sukha Pariksha. Yeah. So basic questions. Now, before we even start this Pariksha, or as a beginning of Pariksha, okay, let us all see basic questions. Let us think a little. So again, I'm telling you, this is an intellectual exercise to know who I am, to get a glimpse of that. Okay. So the very first question in our day-to-day lives, yeah, we all, every moment we have choices to do this or that, but we choose a particular choice, right? We go for one particular thing, and we also take decisions based on certain things in life. So what is that? For example, morning alarm rings. Right from morning, if you see morning alarm rings, why do I choose to snooze it? And why do I choose to sleep for some more time? And say breakfast, for example, why do I choose dosa over upma? So even these simple things, if we start examining, okay, the answer we get, what is the answer we get? What makes me choose that over this? So why do I decide a particular school for my child and, over something else, so basically I would have certain beliefs, like, a school is a place where value system needs to be inculcated in my child. So that belief, when it matches with a particular school, I go for that. So why do I go for that? Because once that matching has happened, I feel happy within. Why do I choose to sleep for a longer time? feel happy within. Why do I choose dosa over upma? Again, by tasting, I like dosa and I feel happy within. So all these things, every small action that we take in our life is because of this basic fundamental truth, which is that we all are constantly seeking this happiness or sukha. So it is a very interesting exercise for each one of us to observe through the day and reflect and write, okay, I chose this, it gives us an understanding of what we attach this happiness to. Yeah? So this Sukha Pariksha again, we will move on to what is the Sukha Pariksha. Like yesterday, what we saw, the basic fundamental thing here is we are doing happiness, for example, we attach to many things, right? So we will see what all we attach happiness to. Yeah? We attach maybe happiness to whenever my sense is one with the sense object that it is seeking. When I'm eating masala dosa in Darshini, I have been not eating for the past few months because of COVID lockdown. So I'm remembering only that now. So masala dosa in Darshini. So what happens? So when I'm eating, I seek that. So that I attach my happiness to the masala dosa. Though I attach my happiness to maybe, a very comfortable clothing. I attach my happiness to a favorite movie. So when you say happy, I'm happy if I watch maybe, my favorite movie, my favorite serial, Mahabharata or whatever. So whenever my senses are gratified, right? So this level of happiness, we call it as bhoga sukha, yeah? Because of objects. So in the other term we can say is kama. So the pleasure in my senses are giving me this happiness. But we don't look at it like that. We look at, that movie is giving me happiness, that masala dosa is giving me happiness. Now, slowly we get to understand. I'm just taking you through different levels. Just slowly we get to understand that this bhoga sukha has somewhere a saturation. I can eat 2 masala dosa, maybe maximum 3 if I'm very hungry. But then 4th, I will not be able to eat. I know that. It is very simple in terms of bhoga sukha. Yes, I cannot watch the same movie again and again for 10 times. So we understand there is a saturation there. So then we move on to, now this is not giving me happiness. What is the next one which is giving me happiness? We are chasing. Okay? Whether we know or we don't know, this is what is happening. What we do, we chase. The next one is achievements. I would like to get that job, I would like to get a job in SAP labs. I would like to go to US, study in some university. See, all those achievements, that car or this, whatever. So all my, this is artha, where we chase behind the achievements which kind of fulfills my ego, which makes my ego happy. So this is the, maybe we can call it as artha. We move behind, chase behind artha. After a point, again, I have good house, I have wonderful car, all comforts, everything. Then there is again a saturation that I reach, and then the mind starts seeking again in the chase of happiness, again in the chase of sukha. We start seeking it in things that fulfills, that brings in that purpose. What is the meaning? Let me try and get some meaning in life. That's why you see so many people who have been in high paid jobs resigning it and starting maybe, yoga centers, yoga therapy they offer to people, and a lot of people getting into social work. That is where this is, we can maybe relate to dharma. So kama, artha, dharma. Fulfillment, where I am trying to do something which is going to give me more meaning in my life. After a point, okay, even this somewhere comes to a saturation. And we see, okay, what next now? Yes, but yet there is something that we seek inside which is not fulfilled. What is it that I am seeking? So what is the whole crux of this whole thing is that we have been seeking happiness by attaching it to the outside world, something outside. Yeah? Be it sense objects, be it achievements, artha, or all the wealth that I get, or be it even great service, whatever we do, the fulfillment, the meaning that we have drawn for life. So after all this, all these are outward, okay, outside. So the next thing, what Vedanta actually says is, do not seek happiness outside. Happiness is nowhere but within. So we need to take a U-turn. I've been seeing outside the world. Now take a complete U-turn. Let us look within. Yeah. One logical answer, logical way of reasoning this is, I really liked, which Gurudev Chinmayananda quotes, is say, for example, I am experiencing happiness because, say, I got good promotion in my work. Yeah. So I'm experiencing happiness there. So that is an artha that I have gained, that I have got. So now we know that the artha does not have any happiness, because how much ever we keep getting it, at some point in time there is a saturation. Yeah. In our mind we are understanding that. So we know that. But yet I am experiencing that happiness. So where can that happiness come? Either it should come from the object outside, but we know now it is not coming from there. Yeah. So the other option is I am experiencing it. So it has to come from me, right? This is for people who are very logical, this will work very well. So I really liked it. So that's why I'm just sharing this. So it has to come from within only. There is no other option. So happiness is something that comes from within. This is a statement, I think, which we need to put it in our mind, like, you know, how we nail it in our mind, in our buddhi, so that it is there. This is what Vedanta says. Happiness is within, and every experience, every time you experience sukha, turn within. Do not look at that which has given you, which you think has given you the sukha. Turn within and see sukha as an experience. So this is how we are going to do this Sukha Pariksha in Vedanta way, in the way of Vedanta, like how beautifully Shastriji puts it across. Yeah? So this Sukha Pariksha, again, let me reiterate, is an examination to understand who I am. So to understand who I am, to know, understand and then know who I am, is a journey within. Take a U-turn from outside to inside. This is point, very important fundamental point. Yes. Now we will, like how those days, you know, rishis used to do. That was a very interesting passage in the Let Go book, where Shastriji says that he used to wonder how come rishis did not, seek the comforts outside. They did not build such modern cities. They did not. Why do we have all these things, you know, in chase of happiness, right? We thought, okay, comforts will give me happiness, money will give me happiness. So we did all these things. So the ancient rishis, they did not get into it at all. Yes, they were always looking inwards, and they found the truths of life. What made them do that? So his logic is so beautiful. What he says is, all these in nature, if you see the outside world, okay, it works within the laws of nature. Be it rain, be it the sunshine, be it the sunrise, be it the sunset, be it the ecosystem in the forest, the complete, you know, ecosystem of water, whatever you take, everything, the carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, all the scientific concepts, everything works in a rhythm. It works with a sense of balance, and there is nothing that I can do to change it. If at all I'm interfering with it, I'm only damaging it. And I think we all know how much we have done to all this. So the rishis knew this truth. They had realized this, and they also realized, they looked within and they understood, oh, within me is what that I can change. It is so malleable. Every little thing in me is changeable. So this is what I need to work at, and not at the world outside. So this is a wonderful wisdom that Shastriji has shared in the Let Go book. So the Vedanta way of looking at things is looking within. Yeah. So now we will do the Sukha Pariksha by looking within. Okay. So let us move on to, yes. So looking within means, the first thing is think, imagine one moment of happiness in that each one of us have had. And in that moment of happiness, how was my mind, the state of my mind? How was it? And see, you would reflect. Ideally, I should give you time to reflect. So I would ask you to reflect at home and see. So what happens to the mind at that moment? Maybe the moment I saw the newborn baby, or the moment that I see doing paragliding and I'm just coming down, looking at the beautiful Himalayas. The moment I reach the peak after the trek, whatever. So that moment of happiness. Yeah. So at that moment of happiness, how is my mind? That is one question. And the second question is, hold on to these questions. Yeah. The second question is this happiness, okay, whatever you call it, it can be whatever moment of happiness, is it the same that we are talking about in terms of Shashwat Sukha, the eternal bliss? Are these the same? Yeah. So these are the two questions. So to the first question, the answer is yes, there is, this mind becomes completely empty at the moment of happiness. If you actually relive that moment, you will see that the mind has absolutely no thought and we are completely present at that present given moment. So that is the state of, in fact, Adi Shankaracharya says that is the state where the mind is not coming between our true nature. Yes, so that is the state of eternal happiness also. But why is it that we don't think this material happiness is not eternal happiness? It is very simple, right? It does not stay with us for a long time. It's very momentary. A lot of times we even miss that. Okay, many a times if we think and reflect, we won't even know that it was a thoughtless state because it was such a, in a fraction of a moment, it just goes. So that material happiness, it is in fact the same as eternal happiness, but it is fractional. It is fragmented. And this material happiness, before that there is restlessness, after that also there is restlessness. Yes. So to move towards this eternal happiness, what do? Again, as part of Sukha Pariksha, we hold on to this experience of happiness and leave the one that we think has given me happiness. It could be very simple thing of eating the masala dosa. I'm relishing the masala dosa, the taste. Yeah. Just be in that moment and understand, oh yes, this is the eternal bliss. Okay. And leave away that masala dosa, that thought that this has given me happiness. Yeah. Enjoy that. So that is what is one way of being in that sukha state. Yeah. So we saw this yesterday. We will reiterate this. Yeah. So basically this whole dukha to sukha. So dukha is where the mind agitations are there. Mind is constantly there with lot of thoughts. Yes. And constantly giving us dukha, be it my likes, dislikes, jealousy, greed, whatever it is. So mind is constantly there. So sukha is where all these thoughts are taken away and we are directly in touch with our nature, we can call it, or directly in touch with ourselves, the divine self. Yes. So this, how does that happen? We did see it yesterday and let us revisit it today. So dukha again is because there is a lot of thoughts in my mind running all the time, restlessness, right? So how do we attack that? How do we do that? We slow down the mind. Naidanya. It is called Naidanya. Nidanam, we call it in Tamil, right? So from Vega, with lot many thoughts, we slow down. So how do we do this? It is not very easy. So when we slow down, actually yoga is a wonderful way. A lot of people would have done yoga asanas. So we also say, right, when we do the asanas, Thiram Sukham Asanam, and then, yes. So in that, what happens? We are slowing down. The slower we do, the body becomes slow, the breath is slowed down. Once the breath is slow, we see that the number of thoughts in the mind also slows down. A beautiful example that Nagaratna Didi once gave was, she had interacted with one of her participants who had very high, speed, mind, lot of thoughts, okay, very rajasic person. So because of that, there were a lot of issues in his body also. He had acidity and all that. So a wonderful thing that was given to him was, once in 2 hours, all that he need to do was close his mind, do some mindful breathing, listen to Omkara, say 5 rounds or 8 rounds every 2 hours. Okay, in a week's time, he could see that the vega of the mind had slowed down. Had slowed down, and this Naidanya, he could actually kind of see the thoughts becoming less, and the thoughts are actually he was able to see that gap. The moment there is a gap between the thoughts, what happens? We get the glimpse of our true nature. It is like there are no gaps, mind with full of thoughts, it's like this. The moment there are gaps, what happens? We start seeing our true nature. Once that is there, then we experience Sukha. So once we experience Sukha, we can start re-educating our mind, saying, hey mind, listen, by eating masala dosa, you're not going to get Sukha. By doing this is where you're going to get Sukha. So that is how we make friends with our mind and suggest to our mind, yes, this is going to give you Sukha now. Okay, focus on this now. What? Slowing down. Yeah. So that is one beautiful solution, Dukha Nivarana or Sukha Prapti, you say, which Shastriji has shared in this book. It is such a wonderful way of looking at reducing the speed. The other one which we actually saw yesterday was focus, right? Too much focus on one thing. When I focus a lot on one thing, what happens? The energy is drained out. So after, all of us would have experienced that, right? When we focus so much on something, after we finish that, we could have finished the task successfully, but then after that, we all feel so tired, right? It could be a simple cooking activity in the morning where we focus so much, guests are coming and I have to finish it, and I'm so focused on, that everything should come out tasty, and I'm so focused on doing that. So I may do it with tasty food, but then, after that, I feel very tired. So how do we shift that to diffusion? Vistarata, he calls it. What is it? Let go. So he says, let go of that. So just let us get back to the example of cooking, because these are experiences which I know. So I'm just sharing that. I'm sure each one of you will have your own examples. So when you, in the morning when we cook, the focus is too much on the taste. So all these focus that I am cooking, the taste has to be good, family should like the way I'm cooking. So all these things are anxiety which is building in my mind, and with full focus I'm cooking. So this is really going to tire me after the whole cooking process, and the process itself is not enjoyable. So what can be done? A small shift. Yeah. So what I started listening to a lot of discourses from a few of the gurus or whatever, or it could be even music for people. So somewhere there is something in the background where you are engaging your mind with, and you start doing this. So there is that let go is there. Okay, I'm not going to be bothered whether this is coming out well or not. Let me be in the present moment and do this. So there is the majority of my mind is in that sukha. Okay, I'm listening to something and thinking. A small part of this mind is in the cooking process. So it happens effortlessly. When that happens, the process becomes enjoyable, and the outcome also is good enough, because when we enjoy and do something, when we are in joy and do something, it comes out well. So we don't have to worry about the outcome. So this is one way of moving to Vistarata from Ekagrata. Another way is to be a witness. It is all similar actually to being a witness. So basically, when I say I am cooking, the other example which can be taken is when I teach mathematics to my child. When my child is there in the mind, okay, there's a lot of expectation from my child. Yes. So this I realized when I was teaching mathematics at school. There was so much patience, and I was just bringing in different methodologies and ensuring that the child gets it. But when I do it for my own child, that doesn't seem to be working at all. Then I looked at it. What is the problem here? The problem here is the focus is more on my child need to do the maths correctly. My child need to know all these things. Why is it that she's so many thoughts just run like anything there, and Vega is there, and there's so much of focus in my child. Okay, so what has to be done here? Here, what helped was to witness, detach from that particular, not my child. Let me think that she is also a child like any other child who is learning mathematics. So that let go is there. Yeah, and then we start witnessing at that point. Yes, let me, now I am witnessing these thoughts, let me slow down, now be in the moment and teach her. So at that time what happens, again, part of the mind, so because we are now in that sukha state, okay, we get very good suggestions from inside saying try this method, try that one, you know, so the whole process itself becomes even more effective. So ekagrata to an extent is okay, but once it starts draining our energy, we consciously need to shift to diffusion or vistarata. So these are the two, I would say, tools given in the suggestions given in the book, and which are extremely practical, which can be followed and practiced by each one of us in our daily lives. We just need to turn inwards, keep doing the pariksha all the time. So just to summarize again, what is Sukha? Sukha, the experience of Sukha, it is not outside. Let us understand, we experience Sukha when the mind is thought-free. So at least for our sake, let us take when there are less thoughts, less Dukha. Yeah. So we are moving towards Sukha. If not, thought-free state is the ultimate. Yeah. So for us, practically, let us take one step at a time. This is Sukha. Sukha, one more thing is, it's a state of expansion where there is no me. I am not within the shell of me and myself. Yes, that is not there. We have let go, and that diffusion has happened. So the moment that is there, what happens? Creativity comes in. We start acting in a different way, like what beautifully yesterday, in yesterday's talk, they said, kartum, akartum, anyata kartum. Either we do in one way or we can do in another way. Yes. So, or we don't have to do it also. So all these things come from within. The suggestions come from within, and we start experiencing the flow of love, compassion, all these things which are flowing from our true nature. So this is a state of expansion. When all these things are there, what is it that we are experiencing? We experience Sukha. So with this short, very, very short glimpse of what is Sukha, let me end here. Just to reiterate, you know, Naidhanya and Vistarata, these two are brought about by Shastriji, in all our scriptures. These two are brought about examining the experience of Sukha in each one of them. Yeah, when at the state of Sukha, the person is Naidhanya. Yeah, there is no speed at all in the mind. And at the state, during the state experience of Sukha, there is expansion. There is no constriction. So the let go attitude is there. The witnessing attitude is there. So this kind of gives a glimpse of the Sukha Pariksha. So the crux of the whole thing is we need to turn our attention inwards. There is nothing outward there where we can change. All that we need to do is turn inwards, see what is happening. What do you see? So all that we see is we are not the body, we are beyond the mind, the infinite. So let us draw energy from that infinite source. Yeah. Thank you. Mukunji will continue with another methodology again suggested by Shastriji in our Upanishads. Over to Mukunji.
Thank you, Bala. Quite interesting. Any number of times we listen to Sukha Pariksha, this topic from the Shastriji's viewpoint. I think we always find something new. That's the beauty of Shastriji's own research that he did and his own viewpoint, which I think is so unique. We cannot find this in any other contemporary books. Thank you so much for that. And now I come to the next topic of the day, Avasta Traya. So the Avasta Traya, what I will do today is I'm going to present you in directly what Shastriji opined about this topic. Because if we give and digress from other viewpoints, it dilutes the concepts that Shastriji brought out. So the Avastha Traya, which we also call the three states of existential experience. Now, we have to remember that this particular Avastha Traya has been brought about by from the Mandukya Upanishad. The Mandukya Upanishad is a very beautiful, one of the shortest Upanishad. It has only 12 shlokas, but it brings about such a beautiful concepts of Vedanta, or about the whole aspect of Adhyatma and Vedanta is brought about only in 12 shlokas. And again, within the Mandukya Upanishad, the Avastha Traya is covered in hardly 4 or 5 shlokas. So the first shloka is given here. I don't want to get into the semantics of the shloka. Again, it complicates the or mystifies the whole exercise. The Atma Brahma, Soyam Atma Chatushpat, which means that the Atman has actually the 4 states of its existence. So out of that, the first is the waking state, then is the dream state. The waking state is also called as the Jagrat state, the Sanskrit name. The dream state or the Swapna Avastha, and then the sleep state that's called the Nidra Avastha, or it's also called as the Sushupti. So these are the 3 states that we are going to discuss. But apart from the 3, there is also a 4th state that's coming in, which is not actually declared as a state because it is a underlying state of consciousness. That's called the Turiya. So if you see, you have the Jagrat, you have the Swapna, and you have the Sushupti, and underlying all the 3 states, the complete thing is encompassed by Turiya state. Now, the states here actually can be compared, the states of the Atman can be compared to something like the waves of the ocean. There are different kinds of waves in the ocean. The 3 major waves are the Jagrat, Swapna, and Sushupti, and the whole ocean itself can be described as the Turiya state. And the Atman is actually nothing but the Brahman. Actually, that's what is described. Even though it may appear as a separate entity, it is part of the Brahman. And this absolute reality of Brahman is operating through the Atman, and again through the Atman, it operates in, or it manifests into the world in the 3 different states of Jagrat, Swapna, and Nidra. So with this fundamental understanding, now let us go ahead to understand each of the states. Yeah. So we come to the Jagrat Avastha. The shloka here is describing about the first state, the Pratama Pada, or the Jagrat Avastha, the waking state. What happens in the Jagrat Avastha? As we all know, it is the waking state where we are all aware and conscious of the external objects that are available. And now, when we talk of the external objects, how do we perceive or the external objects? The perception of the external objects, it is explained here that it is coming through our 7 limbs. If you see here, it is described as Saptanga, Prajna, Saptanga, and 19 outlets of the physical body. So the 7 organs and 19 outlets of the physical body are actually perceiving the external objects. So just very shortly to tell you what are the 7 organs, the 7 limbs are basically the 5 Panchabhutas that the body is made of, the earth, water, fire, air, and space. And the next 2 are, one is the vital energy or the energy flow that happens within the body, and the 7th limb is supposed to be the individualization, where the Atma thinks that it is separate from the eternal entity and tries to think it is separate. So that separation or the individualization is the seventh limb. So these are the seven limbs through which we are in the Jagrat Avastha. And what are the 19 outlets of the Jagrat Avastha? They include the 5 sense organs. Uh, uh, Basically the eyes, ears, nose, uh, the tongue, and the touch. So these are the 5 sense organs through which we are seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and feeling things through the touch. Apart from this, the next 5, which is part of the 19 outlets, are uh, the organs of action, also called as the karmendriyas, the movement, the action of movement, grasping through the hands, and then speaking through the tongue, the excretory process, excretion process through our excretory organs, and the procreation process through the reproductory organs. So these are the karmendriyas, 5 panchendriyas, 5 karmendriyas, and apart from that, we have the panchabhutas. So there is a vital energy which is flowing within our body, and this vital energy is actually categorized as panchavayus. Actually, even though we call it as totally as a prana, as a vital energy, within that there is a categorization depending on how they are behaving and where they are showing themselves as. So the panchavayus are prana, apana, udana, samana, and vyana. So we are perceiving the external world through the panchendriyas, karmendriyas, panchavayus, and then also the 4 inner instruments that we have. So what are the inner instruments? That's also called the antakarna. The inner instruments are basically the manas, the mind, buddhi, the intellect, ahankara is the I-ness within a person, and the chitta or the consciousness. So these are the antakarna or the inner instruments of the Jagrat Avastha. So now, without spending more time, I will try to move on. But one more thing, use the words of Shastriji. In the Jagrat Avastha, we have the Gnatrutva, Kartutva, and Bhoktrutva. That is, there is a knower or a perceiver, there is a doer, and there is doership, and there is a experiencer. So these are the aspects of the Jagrat Avastha. Now let me come to the next state, the Swapna Avastha. Now, very interesting here, the Swapna Avastha, it is actually part of the, many may consider part of the dream state, or part of the sleep state, because we see mostly dreams in the sleep. But actually what happens, the dreams are not part of our deep sleep state. When our sleep is disturbed, or what you call in the modern science as the REM state, rapid eye movement state, that time the dreams are seen mostly by us. They are the projections of our subconscious mind. And actually we don't have to actually go into this partial sleep state. Even when you sit, we can imagine things, we can build castles in the air, we can go into our deep imagination, we can go into our own fascinations, and the sky is the limit when it comes to the mind. So mind can think of anything. So this is, you can call as the dream state. Now the dream state or the partial sleep state is the second state that is recognized in the Mandukya Upanishad. Here again, we should remember that we are experiencing everything, but inwardly, we are not in the external world. Internally, we are experiencing this through the mind. So it is somewhat similar to the Jagrat Avastha, only thing the things are subtler. Like if I have to give an example, there's a virtual world. For example, my son plays a lot of games. So he used to play a lot of cricket. So he used to play cricket game on the mobile, on a gadget. And he used to believe he's hitting fours, he's hitting sixes, he would score in 20 overs, he would score more than 200 runs. All these things are possible on the virtual world. That's like in the dream state. But then to slowly get him out of the gadgets, I started asking him to go and actually play. And we would go out and play cricket. And then he realized how difficult it is to hit the ball. And if he hits what he would think as a sixer, he will end up in a catch. So that is the reality. That's the Jagrata Avastha is actually physically going out and doing something. But in the mind or the virtual world, you can do much more things. But still you are experiencing all the things that the sense organs can experience in the Jagrata Avastha. So in that sense, there's a lot of similarity between the Jagrata Avastha and the Sapna Avastha. Now, one important thing we need to look here is the modern psychology gives a lot of importance to the sleep state. And I would say it's not wrong at all to look at it that way in a sense, because it is part of a subconscious mind that may be coming out in the dreams. And why it is important is to understand what's happening in our mind so that we get a chance to dissolve these kind of emotions that come up. So in that sense, modern psychology looks at it that way, and it is right to that limited extent. But very important to know that the Swapna Avastha is given least importance in Vedantic world. So Vedanta does not recognize this is a very great state and or something to learn from it. So it does not give much importance. It is a subconscious mind. So there's a big difference in the thinking between modern psychology and how Vedanta looks at it, or how the ancient texts look at it, how the Gyanis have looked at it. So without much dwelling on the Swapna Avastha, I would like to go on to the next state, which is the Nidra Avastha. So this Nidra Avastha is also called as Sushupti. Now comes the interesting thing here. Nidra Avastha is the deep sleep state. And what we need to note here is the deep sleep state is something that we experience without dreams. So you are sleeping, you can see the image here. The person is sleeping without concern in the world. He doesn't even, is not even aware of his body, he's not even aware of his mind. So no dreams, nothing is there in that state. What a beautiful state to be. I'm sure only those who are deprived of sleep will more and more appreciate it, because we take this as for granted. Every day we get into sleep. Those who are tired physically or those who are less stressed can easily get into the sleep state. And more or less, I'm sure people in younger ages get into the sleep state more easily. As we get older, the sleep may reduce, or the quality of sleep may also come down. So the sleep state is a beautiful, beautiful state, and it's a God-given gift to us. What a beautiful gift he has given us. He has created day and he has created night. He has created the day for the activities. The night is for relaxing, resting very naturally. So we get into the Nidra Avastha in the nights, or the Sushupti. Now, in the Nidra Avastha, what happens? See, 1/3 of our life almost, or 40% of our life is spent in the Nidra Avastha or Sushupti. And it is, unfortunately, this aspect has not been studied, or modern science does not give much importance to Nidra Avastha, the Sushupti, except that they say that you need rest for getting healing. So you need to take rest, is the only thing that people say. But what is that happens? What is it that happens? Why that sleep state gives you? It is looked at in a physiological way, but actually it is not a physiological exercise. The Nidra Avastha is a beautiful state. So what happens in the Nidra Avastha? There is no yearnings, no desires, no thoughts. There is no cognition from the sense organs. There's no karmendriyas, no gyanendriyas acting. There is no involvement at all. To the extent that when somebody gets into the sleep state, he doesn't even know that he is in the sleep state. There is no even experiencer there. But yet, during the sleep state, there may not be an experiencer. But after you get up, then you know that, yes, I have slept well. So during the sleep, you may not know, but after you get up from the sleep, you may be knowing that you have slept well and you're really happy. So the thing to remember here is neither the sense organs, neither the actions, organs of action, or even the mind, all the three are almost absent in this state. So knowing this about the Sushupti or the Nidra Avastha, let us now try to dwell little more on the Nidra Avastha. So Bala already explained about how in the Jagrat Avastha, we can get the glimpses of happiness, Ananda. So we can get the glimpses of Ananda. She explained that we can get it through the sense organs when we eat good food, or when you listen to some good music, or you listen to some bhajans, or whatever the sense organs are gratified. For that matter, even Shastriji, I remember he gives examples of sex. When one has sex also, why is that peak of happiness reached? What happens? So this goes on to show that the happiness is not in the activities that is being done, but happiness is a beautiful state. And this is possible. We have beautiful states of happiness in our Jagrata Avastha. We have beautiful state of happiness in our Swapna Avastha. Very few times we dream very sweet things. That's why we wish each other sweet dreams, so that in the dreams, what we cannot do in the waking state, at least in the dream state, we get to see some beautiful experiences. So the Ananda is available in the Jagrata Avastha, it's available in the Swapna Avastha. But what happens is, whatever is available in the Jagrat and Swapna Avastha is a fraction and fraction amount of what is available in the Sushupti state or the Nidra Avastha. So Sushupti, what is described in, if you see this shloka here, it says Ananda Bhuk. So while one is in Sushupti, one is immersed or totally in Ananda. He is totally encompassed with Ananda. That is a beautiful state that one is in the Nidra Avastha. So this again reinforces the fact that we saw in the previous Sukha Pariksha topic, that non-doing, when you're doing nothing, when you're not involved in anything, when the body is not working, when the sense organs are not working, when the mind is not working, there is total happiness or sukha. That's a beautiful conclusion to draw, and Shastriji brought this out so beautifully well. And now he further says that for experiencing joy, you need nothing. We always try to take the support of the external objects of the world, but actually we need nothing, and that is proven through the Nidra Avastha. So in the Nidra Avastha, what happens? There is neither the knower, there is neither the subject, there is neither the object on which you are focusing, and neither there is a process of observing or doing whatever. So all the three, the knower, the knowing, and the known, the subject, the object, and the process, all are collapsed, and there is this big shunya there, and that shunya is nothing but the happiness that we are looking at. So what shunya we saw in the Sukha Pariksha, there also we see the emptiness is there of the mind. Here also there is emptiness. So this is the beautiful joy that we are all looking for. Now, we all know that now we have know that the Nidra Avastha is giving the beautiful happiness. And one more thing I just want to touch upon is, which again Shastriji also brought out beautifully, why in Nidra Avastha the healing happens. The healing is not a physiological process. In the Nidra Avastha, the happiness, the beautiful, the Amrutatva is there. That beautiful state is there, and we all go and touch that ocean of Amruta in the Nidra Avastha, and that is when the healing happens, and the healing translates or percolates down to the body level also, and there is a healing process that happens. So those who sleep well, actually the good quality sleep, they will get better healing. So when you silence your mind, when you get a good sleep, the healing happens, and even the bodily illnesses, physiological illnesses are cured. That is one of the concepts that is brought out by Shastriji. And that is why we need to examine this this state very closely. And what unfortunate thing that the modern psychology does not give much importance to sleep state. They only describe it as a state of rest. And having known that the Nidra Avastha is a beautiful state, one will argue that why can't we just use that nidra avastha. Let me sleep for all the time and be in the ananda. Some people try to do that. The lazy people, they try to sleep on and on and on for hours. But actually what happens, unfortunately, we don't have a mastery over the sleep state. I cannot get into a sleep state when I want. It is a natural process. When one is tired, when one is body needs rest, when the mind is distressed, either you get into total nidra avastha or you get into a total meditative state. So this is not something that one can willingly get into. It is a natural state that God is giving us as a gift. And that is why this state is also having a shortcoming. And Shastriji beautifully says that this is a defect. We cannot use the nidra state always. We can only use it for 1/3 of the time. That is the natural gift that God has given us for the sleep. Having understood that, let me delve little more onto the next level. If nidra avastha also is not the state that we need to enjoy, so what is it that we need to get into? So then comes the turiya state, the fourth state, and this is actually, like I told you, the underlying state that we are all made up of. Like it's the ocean, and the waves are the other avastha. So we are all looking at the waves, but we forget the ocean, which is our beautiful state, the turiya state. It's a carefree and unconcerned state. And it is actually, Shastriji tells, the turiya state is the end of evolution. It is the total peaceful state. It's a non-dual state where you don't have dualities of heat or cold, sorrows or happiness, or any pair of opposites are dissolved in this state. And that is the state of the self. That is the turiya state. And how to get this state? So Shastriji says that the qualities of the nidra, whatever qualities are there in the sleep state, if we can bring it into the Jagrat state, that is the ultimate thing that one can bring in the total happiness. The Turiya state is getting the Nidra qualities into the Jagrat state. There is no emotions, there is no scheming, there is no thinking, everything is collapsed. And you are working with a very neutral mind. Just for the sake of working, you are working, work for the work's sake. So here the example that one can give as work for the work's sake is the example of karma yoga, or like a mother feeding the child, or a bird feeding its young ones. Or you can also take the example of our own, Raghuramji says very beautifully, our own beautiful organs that work, the digestive organs, and the you can say the circulatory system or the respiratory system, they are just working like that. There's no need to interfere. But actually, our mind, through its own different stresses and strains, we try to disturb those states. That is when the disease percolates from the mind to the body level. That is also a beautiful concept that Shastriji has brought out. And so, if we don't disturb anything, if we have a calm mind, they all will work on their own. The digestive system, circulatory system, these are just examples. And even doing the work in the external world, we just keep doing it for the sake of doing, without having any disturbance in the mind. That is, you can call as the Turiya state. And it is like a Jivan Mukta state of a realized soul. It is very much possible, the realized state, the Jivan Mukta state. And here what happens, there is a Sakshi Bhava. These are all beautiful words used by Shastriji. There is a witnessing state. There is a Udasina Bhava. There is a detached state. You are not attached to anything. There is a Anasakti Bhava. There is non-involvement. You are there, you are doing, but you are not involved. You are only observing. So all these states actually, if you see, they are part of the meditative state. When you are into meditation, you are always witnessing, you are detached, you are not involved, you are just there. So why not bring that meditative state in even our Jagrata state? We can bring the meditative state, do our work, and that is the beautiful state of Turiya, and that is very much possible. Such a person who is in that state can be called as a Jivan Mukta, or a realized soul. And I would like to conclude. I think my time is getting over. I'll just take 1 or 2 minutes to conclude. If we can bring the qualities of Nidra into the Jagrat state, we have the solution to the Sukha. because we all need happiness. So we can get happiness if we bring the Nidra Sthiti into the Jagrat state. And this is described in this particular shloka. It says that even the mother is burdened in the Jagrat state when she is more concerned for the child. She has to do all the things for the child. But in the Nidra state, even her motherhood collapses. The father, who has so much of responsibility, his responsibility is dissolved in the Nidra state. And we are free of all our wrongs. And even a thief or our criminal, his crime is dissolved in the Nidra state. So this is the state we need to get into, the beautiful, happiest state, the highest state, the highest form of existence. This is the Turiya state. And again, I would like to draw a parallel to the subject of Sukha, Dukha that we saw in the last 2 days, yesterday and today, what Bala did. So the Sukha Dukha Pariksha and the Nidra Pariksha, which we did today, and the other states of existence, all that leads to one common factor, that is the no mind state. The no mind state leads to the bliss state, and this is one of the essence of Shastriji's teachings, to get into how to get into the no mind state, which is the bliss state. So that's all I want to tell today. Thank you very much. Namaste.
Thank you, Mukund. Thank you, Bala. Thank you, Mukund, for a wonderful state. Yeah, so we saw that in both the Sukha and the Avasta Traya Pariksha, it is the calmness in the mind that we experience. That is what is giving us the joy. That is what is giving us the bliss state. So can we be aware and can we be in this bliss state, at different times in the day? Yeah, not that, only when we are sleeping, we have that bliss, or when we are enjoying something, we have that bliss. But can we have that bliss in different times of a day? So that, how do we do that? We can see in the next few classes. So if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat. Raghuramji, can you explain a little more about the Turiya state?
Okay, now unmute. Over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Namaste. Before going to Turiya state, both of them wonderful presentations. Actually, there is nothing subject-wise I need to add to them, because very clear, very simple way the explanation was given. That's the beauty of Shastriji's also, that it goes with the day-to-day examples. But let me give you some interesting aspects that are involved in that. Then I'll come to the Turiya Sthiti also. First, when I take Bala's presentation, am I audible? Sorry.
Yes, Raghuramji.
Sorry, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So, actually, this about the Sukha Pariksha that Bala has given, one of the most important Upanishad is Taittiriya Upanishad. And there's a whole lot of discussion that goes on in Taittiriya Upanishad, as people who know about Taittiriya Upanishad, Anandavalli, which means basically the Ananda. While explaining about this Anandavalli, Shastriji said this is about the Sukha Pariksha, or the Pariksha of the happiness. Immediately there were some Pandits who have raised an objection to that, because Shastriji was giving the explanation of how the coffee gives you Sukha, how this gives you Sukha, those things. Immediately somebody got up angry and raised and said that, what is this nonsense? You are talking about the coffee Sukha and masala dosa Sukha, When Balamba was saying that, my mouth was watering. Anyway. And but then Upanishad talks about extraordinary Sukha, that is Brahma Sukha. That's when Shastriji countered that is there in the Let Go book also. What happens is, Shankaracharya has given a commentary on that. Ananda Mimamsa, this question was posed to Shankaracharya. Kimanandasya Mimamsyam, what is the Ananda we are discussing about? That means to say the question is, are we discussing about ordinary human happiness or the happiness of something somebody has realization and he has the Ananda experience? So Kimanandasya Mimamsyam, then Shankaracharya says that if that Ananda is different from this Ananda, then why do I leave the objective world outside to go to that Ananda? I would like to have both the Anandas. I don't want to miss the Ananda that is given by the world outside, but at the same time, the Ananda that maybe that spirituality which will give or not. And not only that, much more important thing is that is not in my hand anyway, because I still have to do so much meditation, this and that, and then I will get that ultimate Ananda. Whereas Vishyananda is in my hands. So, what happens with me is I give this up, thinking that I will get that Ananda, but if you don't get both of them, then you are lost both. Na ghar ka na ghat ka. So therefore, Shankaracharya gives a very beautiful explanation, and that is, he says, Laukika Anandasyeva Brahmanandasyeva Matraha Ananda. That means to say, Laukika Ananda, that means objective world gives Ananda, is also nothing but Brahmananda. If that is also the same, then why do you want me to go to the Brahmananda? You see, this is a pure, how intricately that Shankaracharya answers the inquiry of the student. He says, then why do we need to go to that Ananda? Shankara gives an idea saying that it is like the way that, Laukika Ananda is like the way that we have a lamp, a light, whereas Brahmananda is like the way that that sun. So sunlight is also the same as the candlelight, but what is the difference? Sunlight is supposed to be a trillion times of candlelight, whereas candlelight is 1 trillionth of the sun. So therefore, basically, the quality is the same, but the quantity is different. And this is one aspect of it. Second aspect is that Laukikananda comes and goes. And there are so much of other things that are attached with the Laukikananda. That means the objective Ananda. Like I really love sweets, but then I'm diabetic. What can I do? See, my Ananda is in that, but then I don't get that object. And you normally experience that kind of thing. And there's also a comment that somebody has sleep and somebody has bed. Bed and sleep do not go together, because basically a rich person who has so much of money that he is so restless inside, extraordinary wonderful bed is there, but then he can't sleep. When he comes out of the house, he sees a road worker sleeping on the same sand dune there very happily. A rickshaw puller or auto rickshaw fellow sleeping in a small little auto rickshaw happily, absolutely devoid of the world outside. You wonder, I have all the things, I can get happiness, but I don't have happiness because I don't have peace of mind. So therefore, understanding the happiness is nothing but the happiness that is there in your experience. How can you analyze about the Brahmananda if it is not the Ananda that is there in our day-to-day life? Therefore, we have to proceed from our day-to-day Ananda. This is one aspect of it. Second thing is that this is something which we experience. And not only that, we experience in grades. Like for example, you look at the child. Child is so happy, absolutely, like rolling with the laughter, happiness. And there is hardly anything to laugh. And that is the kind of thing. Whereas we are so sophisticated, even if somebody cracks a joke, somebody gives a great humor, and your sophistication comes in the way of your smile. You can't even enjoy the happiness. What an unfortunate thing it is. Therefore, he says is that you have happiness within you. Once you find out that happiness is within you, all these bondages will go away. Therefore, Laukika Anandasya eva Brahmananda matram. Therefore, this is what Shankaracharya's words. Therefore, we are supposed to analyze the Laukika Ananda, the word Ananda that is given to us. And another thing is that the Upanishad, that also Shastriji quoted there, Na purvam bhakshati shrutihi. Shruti never tells something which is not there in your experience. That means to say you have experience, and from that Upanishad tries to explain about that. It is never going beyond our experience. Why? Because that you are Brahman. The Taittiriya Upanishad starts, Aham Brahmasmi, Ayam Atma Brahma, Soyam Atma Chatushpatitavyam. So you are the Brahman. Don't go out to search for a Brahman outside. But then if it is there already, Napurvam Vakshati Shruti, if it is there within, only thing is we have forgotten. And therefore, Jnapaka Matramiti Shastram is also there, Upanishad Vakya, Shastriji mentioned that. And now very simple explanation that he gives, this is one aspect of it. Second aspect is a sadhana aspect, which we can really explain about that is, when the Yajnavalkya and Maitreya discussion goes on, and Maitreya asks Yajnavalkya, what is this, why are you giving all that money? Yesterday also we have seen the story. And then, very innocently Yajnavalkya says that I give all these riches to you so that I go in search of happiness. Wow, grateful. You gave the money which doesn't give happiness, and then you go for happiness. What kind of husband you are? Immediately Yajnavalkya realized, no, I'm so sorry, my dear madam. Wherever I'm going in search for, you also come along with me. Then Maitreya asks, what is that which gives you happiness? Then happiness is Sukha. This is where Yajnavalkya gives the quotation. That's the most beautiful quotation. That is, Yo vai bhuma tatsukam tadamrutam. Nalpe sukhamasti bhuma vai sukham. In narrowness, you don't have the Sukha. In expansiveness, there is Sukha. You see that the more and more that you narrow, that means to say, you bind yourself narrowly by your own preferences, values, this, that, all kinds of things. You don't have happiness. Any small, little, simple thing that it has to follow within the framework that you have drawn. The dress, it cannot be acceptable. The food, it cannot be acceptable because I'm cut for some food. Where is the question of Sukha? The more and more that you constrict yourself, then there is no happiness for you. Whereas if you have expansiveness, everything gives you happiness. And that's one of the reasons why that Bala presented a very beautiful slide where it is the ocean front, you are on the beach. That means to say the very picture shows that how much of expansiveness there is in front of you. You don't focus on that. So, na alpe sukhamasti bhuma vai sukham. That is the idea that Vedanta tries to give us. Shankara quotes from the Upanishad because all these things are there in the Upanishad. So this is how Shastriji's extraordinary contribution. Shankara was there several thousands of years ago, 2000 years ago or 1000 years ago. And after Shankara, probably somebody who thought in this way that we should connect to our simple coffee happiness to the happiness of the Brahmic state. And that's what Shastriji has presented. If you care to know more about this particular thing, connection between these two, very beautifully, Taittiriya Upanishad gives the sutra that, okay, let us try to understand about the happiness. Then he gives the example, what is the unit of happiness? How do you call it as one unit of happiness? Then he says, very lovely shloka that comes. You know what, I'm talking about Taittiriya Upanishad and all these mantras. Every house, every function in the Hindu family, these mantras are said by, quoted by the Pandits. In fact, many times, when you do the Vaikuntha day, that day all the Pandits come together and they chant these mantras. And they are there in our culture very much. But then unfortunately, we don't know the meaning of that mantras. He asks, what is that unit of the happiness? And then he says, Shaishanandasya Mimamsa Bhavati. Let us try to understand the Mimamsa. Yuva Syat Sadhu Yuva Dhyayakaha Asishto Dradishto Garishtaha Tasyayam Pudvi Sarva Vittasya Purna Syat Sa Eko Manusha Anandaha. That is one human happiness. You see, Upanishad is written 7,000 years ago, 8,000 years ago. But how clearly they have put it. It is applicable today. It's applicable another 10,000 years later. Sayesha Anandasya. What is that Ananda? He says that what is that human happiness? He says that Sayeko Manusha Ananda, one human happiness. What is that one human happiness? He says that Yuva Syat Sadhu Yuva Dhyayakaha. Yuva Syat. That means he's a young fellow. Because if you want to take the standard of a happiness, you can't catch some old man and ask him what is happiness. Or Baba taking the diabetic pill is a happiness for him. He doesn't know what is called as happiness. Young fellow, so Yuva Syat. And then not only that he's young, he's youthfully young. Yuva Syat Sadhu Yuva Dhyayaka. Yeah, you can find many young fellows, but they're older than the old people. They talk like that. They behave like that. Oh, this is, if I take this ice cream, then I'll get the cold, or I might get COVID today. I can't do that. 78-year-old fellow is walking on the street comfortably, whereas this man is actually shivering in the house. So he should be young, youthfully young. Yuvasya sadhu yuvadhyayaka. What do you mean by young? Asishtaha, dradishtaha, balishtaha, tasyayam prudhvi sarva vittasya purna. He gives the qualities. He has a desire to eat. Like in Bala's explanation, somebody says that, would you like to have a masala dosa? I say, wow, hey, at least give me 2 of them or 3 of them. See, that is the kind of asishta, desire should be there. If you do not have that desire, then you can't enjoy the world outside. Asishta. Not only that desire, but also dradishtaha, that is very strong, balishtaha, dradishta. We also have the strength to digest that, and also we have to have stamina for that. Asishto, dradishto, balishtaha. All these things are there, but I don't have money. What to do? Therefore, he adds, tasyayam prudhvi sarva vittasya purnasya. Whatever that you want in this world, the money, agency, this, that, yes, you have that. Next moment, you can get that. So, when all these things are there, Sayeko Manusha, that is one human happiness. There are also one more thing, that is Yuvasya Sadhu Yuvadhyaya. Young fellow, to give the explanation about what is this young fellow, our person who started RSS, Dr. Ji, used to give an example, very beautiful example. He said that an example of a child who was in the mother's womb for 9 months, and then he came out and then cried for some time so that everybody knew that he was born, and stopped crying. Then as the markers are there, he got up and started walking, sitting, and then started walking, and then all those things. Now 3-year-old, mother put him in the school, so he every day he used to go walking by the side of the road to the school and then come back. Then he went to the college, then he went to graduated, then he went to the college. Mother said that don't look at girls because you are young now. So therefore he never raised his head and looked at girls and all that. He went to the college and then came back, passed all the exams. Then he got into the job. 365 days he used to go to the office. He never had one absent, very sincerely, by walking by the side of the road. One day he got married. After marriage he has one child, because marriage is supposed to have a child. And after that, the child is grown. One day he retired. And because he is retired, office said that go and sit at home. So he sat at home. And one day he died. After telling the story, he would say, are you listening to the story? What is the story about it? And a story really means that he should be jumping the wall and he should be stealing the mangoes. You know what? Any amount of mangoes that you buy will not be as tasty as the mango that you steal. And then the ananda that you get by teasing somebody once in a while, that ananda you cannot get otherwise. So therefore, all these things are supposed to be the yuvasya sadhu yuvadi. When all that experience is there, that's what is the human happiness. See, in that particular example, what Shankaracharya gives, or what Upanishad says, is about the human happiness. Unfortunately, somehow, our people made this Vedanta is something which is out on the cloud, and then Ananda is something which is different. Therefore, they have actually killed our normal human experience of happiness. So therefore, essentially, that when we talk about this Ananda, why anybody asks question this idea that we are discussing about the simple household day-to-day experience of happiness, you said, this is what Shankaracharya meant. And we can't find any greater saint than Shankaracharya of interpretation of scriptures. Loka Laukika Anandasya Matra Eva Brahmanandasya iti. This is what Shankara has given. And now another thing is yo vai bhuma tat sukham, nalpe sukhamasti bhuma vai sukham. You know this. There is another important idea about akasha, about sukham. Actually, it is a combination of su plus kham. Another is duhu plus kham. This is what is the sandhi. When you look at it, kham means akasha. Kham means expansiveness. Kham means boundarylessness. And sukham, that means I have no boundaries for something which is good, very expansive. Whereas dukham is boundaryless, tormenting that I created myself. That means to say, I created a boundary which torments me. Therefore, Krishna, that's what is the explanation he gives in the Upanishads, saying that don't have any boundaries. Try to minimize the boundaries that you have. Don't have too many specifications for yourself. Less specifications equivalent to less complaints. I only eat South Indian food. I don't want to take some North Indian food. Well, you know that if you create a boundary like that, you are the sufferer. The world has such variety that is there, and you don't go for that. This is what is the idea. So therefore, let us understand the Sukha Pariksha is absolutely an extraordinary, wonderful way that we are trying to look at our own simple human happiness. It is not at the cost of somebody else's happiness. If I understand what is that happiness from these various things, then we see that I would like to give happiness to somebody else also. It could be in the world kind of needs that are there, objective world that is need. That's what we need to do. Another thing. And the second thing is Avasta Traya Viveka, and very beautifully explained about all these three different states of our experience. But there is one thing that is very important thing that we need to do. These are all your own experiences. It's nobody else's experience. A wakeful state world you perceive is absolutely you perceive. In fact, it is said by psychologists that you see the red color, nobody sees that same red color. You see uniquely that red color, and he sees uniquely that red color. Fortunately, both of you call it as red, so you understand that way. It is as distinct as, it is like our fingerprints. We are so unique. Our signature is there in what we perceive. So therefore, that you have a wakeful state, similarly you have a dream state. And dream is such an important thing. It is a scavenger. It takes away whatever my suppressed emotions are there and all those things. But my dream is not your dream. I can't transfer my dream to your dream. I cannot say that in my dream, God appeared to me and said that I'm a prophet. You have to believe it. No, I'm sorry. Whatever that you have a dream and your God came in your dream and said you are a prophet, I have also a dream. My God also can give me the experience. In a mental hospital, two people were staying there, and then they were discussing, you know, what a loss. What happened? They said, Gandhiji has been, you know, called as mad and put in the jail, put in this mental hospital. Immediately, other fellow became alert. He said, oh, Gandhiji? No, it can't be there. Where? When? All this kind of questions. And the first fellow said, what? You don't believe? God appeared in my dream and told me that I am Gandhiji. And you see that Gandhiji is the mental hospital. The other fellow laughed and said, forget about all those things. I never came to your dream to tell you that you are a Gandhi. That means you can dream that you are a Gandhi. I can dream that I am the God. And therefore, your dream is absolutely your dream, but it has a great purpose. It removes all the suppressed emotions of yours. So you have a dream, you have a wakeful experience, and then you also have deep sleep experience. But then these three things are exclusive. Actually, one cannot replace the other, one cannot interfere with the other. They are all three. So logically, because that since you have all these three experiences and you do not belong to any one of them, therefore you are that fourth state. Fourth state is derived because of all these three experiences, and that fourth state is what is called as Turiya. Actually, Turiya does not have any meaning. Turiya means the fourth. That's what in Sanskrit language. And we all have that fourth state. What is that? Where all these things are removed. Wakeful experiences are removed. Dream experience are removed. Deep sleep experience are removed. You don't have any of those things. No. So that's what is the fourth state. And in what is the difference between the deep sleep and the state and the fourth state? He says, Gaudapada, right? Bijanitra yuta prajnaha sachaturye navidyate. In fact, in the dream state, what happens is all your emotions, mental disturbances, all those things, they go into the seed form. And then they come back and from that again sprout. That's one of the reasons why normally people say that whatever that is there very intensely that you need to remember, you to repeat that before going to sleep. And the next morning you get up, because that was in the bija state, it will come out. Bija nidra yuta prajnam. But then sachaturye navidyate. In the wakeful state, in the dream state, in the turiya state, sachaturye navidyate. Turiya is not suppressing your emotions, your vasanas, this and that, but you raise above that level. Because vasanas, all the suppressed emotions, all those belong to all these three states: wakeful, dream, and deep sleep state. And fourth state is removed from that. Every practice of sadhana that we are doing is actually, if you closely watch it, you are trying to remove bodily yourself from the wakeful state, but then you tend to go to sleep or dream, and then bring yourself away from the dream, and then you go to deep sleep, wake yourself up, so that you remove yourself from all these three states consciously, and the glimpse that you have in all these three are not there. That's what the fourth state. That's why in Mandukya Upanishad, while explaining about the fourth state, the only way that he explains the fourth state, it is neither wakeful state, nor dream state, nanta pragyam, na bahi pragyam, no vaita pragyam, na pragyam, na pragyam, na prajnarakana. Everything is in the na way. That means that is the sadhana mantra. And what we do, in fact, now I explain how we do it. Whenever you are sitting for meditation, don't you switch off all the lights, all the sounds, all the music, everything. That means to say the impact of the outside world, you remove it. But when we remove it, we tend to fall asleep. Therefore, inside, mentally or verbally also, you say Om, or Vipassana say watch your breathing. That means a gentle activity so that you do not fall asleep. Dream comes, you come out of the dream by saying Om, or imagining the wide expanse of the sky so that you don't fall asleep. So this is how basically we try to manage ourselves to see that we remove it. The impact of the external world outside, we need to reduce. And that, it is not one day process. It has to happen repeatedly, little by little. Sometimes you are successful, sometimes you are not successful. That's why Gaudapada gives a great assurance. He says, Shanaihi Shanaihi Uparame Buddhya Dhriti Grihitaya. That means like slowly, steadily, little by little, try to go into that state. Shanaihi. What a kind way that he presents it. Come on, try to do it. Don't complain about, you are not having meditation. Shanaihi Shanaihi Uparame Buddhya Dhriti Grihitaya Atma Samstam Manakrutva Nakinchita Pichintayet. Once you are in the state of Turiya, there is nothing that you worry about. There is nothing which is blissful about. That's what he said very beautifully, Mukund. He said that it's like when a mother goes to the sleep, even mother's worries are not there. Mata amata bhavati. And father, all his worries, anxiety, which are very important. I'm not saying that they are important. But the moment when you are in the Turiya state, that's when Pita apita bhavati, steno astir. These mantras are the mantras that we all chant. These are the mantras which our pandits are chanting. And people, what they do is that these mantras are sacred. So you sang these mantras and break some coconut, and then you burn some incense and say ready. Then you are ready for prasad. And Brahmin also says that, mantra should be chanted perfectly, and you don't have perfect Sanskrit, perfect Jnana. So you sit quiet and for your sake we do it. So we hand over all that responsibility for somebody else. Let us now, whenever that we are in charge of any of these ceremonies, where activities that are going on at your home, listen to these mantras. Take out that Upanishad book. Ramakrishna Ashram, Chinmaya Mission, they produce such wonderful books. In fact, what Bala said, Chinmayananda's Mandukya Upanishad is such an extraordinary Upanishad. He gave a table also to explain to you what it is all about. Because Chinmayananda is an extraordinary, wonderful communicator. So he gave that. Let's try to take these books. Let us start our journey based on these Upanishads. That's what is the greatest tribute that you can pay to Shankara, you can pay to Shastriji, and you can pay to Chinmayananda. And millions of sages who have given us extraordinary, wonderful texts. You'll be thankful to all these people to have been born in this country with this kind of background. Once again, thank you all and congratulate the wonderful presentation of Bala and Mukund. I'm really satisfied. Namaste.
Thank you, Raghuramji. I don't see much questions.
Yeah.
Only one question which I think people have asked is,
Oh, yeah.
how do we
Right.
get how do we get good sleep?
Right.
What do we do to get good sleep?
There. Yeah, earlier I noted two more questions. Sometimes one's own work will give you gratifying and experience. Beautiful. In fact, that means to say that work does not become like a chore. Work becomes like a beautiful karma yoga, because karma yoga purpose is to give you that kind of a joy. Please identify such works and then really enjoy doing that work. Karma, don't look at karma phala, but karma itself you enjoy. This is what is the way Bhagavad Gita Krishna says. What are the tools for expansiveness and diffusion? Wow, that's a very beautiful question. The more and more that you see, this is where I remember the Akbar Birbal story, and Akbar asked Birbal, "Can you shorten this line without touching it?" And then Birbal said, "Very simple." Then he drew a big line, so that line is shortened. The same way that expansiveness, don't try to expand, but get rid of your limitedness, get your limitations, get your boundaries, get rid of your boundaries. People have a lot of these boundaries, get rid of these boundaries, that's fine. Like for example, silence. Noise, I just can't stand noise. Imagine that 100 years back, 50 years back, our people were extraordinary people. We had produced wonderful engineers, doctors, and all those things, and educationists. And in their houses, they were not having all that alone. There were 3, 4, 5 kids are there. Some kid is playing, some kid is shouting, and some mother saying that you take care of this. Amidst all those things, they have won gold medals. That means they did not have a boundary. That silence is important. It's only a saying, Western saying that, speech is silver, but silence is golden. Everything is golden. Everything is spiritual. So that way, limit the boundaries, lessen the boundaries, then you are expansive. Thank you. And then, what is that question that Vijay you asked? How to?
Yeah, somebody was asking like, what do we do to get a good sleep?
Good sleep, of course, a practical hint should be, before going to sleep, you sit down and do some pranayama, because pranayama takes the focus inside, removes you from all the unnecessary burden of the head. And then with pranayama, particularly not very rapid kind of pranayama, don't sit down and start doing the Kapalbhati and Bhastrika or some, Nauli, etc., etc. Sit down comfortably and do Nadi Shuddhi pranayama, Omkara, softens the mind, and then continue in that meditation mode. Sleep happens. And the less that you worry about the sleep, easier the way that sleep happens to you.
Yeah, thank you, Raghuramji.
Thank you.
So I think with that, we can end the session today. Let's all chant the Shanti Mantra together. Namaskara Mudra. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you all. Have a good day. I hope you get a good sleep today with all the tips that Raghuram ji has given. So we'll all see you tomorrow again at 6 o'clock.